Hello, hello. Welcome to our tutorial today. Alrighty, Roo, we are going to be painting this cutie pie. We are going to be talking about how to paint fur. There are so many ways to go about this, and this is just the way I do it. If you're wanting to do a deep dive into dogs, I highly recommend my friend's course, Allie from Windswept Designs. She goes into how to paint all different breeds of dogs, but as a very basic primer, we are going to talk about how to use our layers to create depth and texture in this cute little squirrel. And if this looks like a kit design, well, you might not be wrong. So we are furiously working on creating the final pieces to get this kit out and ready to you all. So these will be shipping on the 9th of November. So get psyched. 9th, 8th. I don't know. 9th. And we'll have pre-orders coming soon. Anyway, welcome to Fall for Watercolor live art class. I'm Kate. I'm your host. And my goal is to make watercolor feel accessible, doable, and fun. And we are learning watercolor basics every Monday through Thursday through the end of October. If you're tuning in live, let me know in the comments what your favorite fall critter is, so that I can count your attendance for the giveaway that we're having at the end of the month next week. You can also play along by entering the challenge with the link below. And we also have a daily little painting challenge. There's all kinds of ways. Get all the points. It's all very exciting and fun. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm realizing I don't have my paints down here. That's awkward. Okay, well, we'll just use the paints that we have available for that are coming in this kit. So I have, let's see, I think it's burnt umber. We have some sap green. We have yellow ochre, new gamboge. I can't remember if this is, I think this is transparent red oxide. And organic vermilion. All right, so we've got our brushes ready. We're going to make some little paint piles. This palette is from my friend Val Flynn. She's local to Snohomish, and she has the cutest little pottery studio. So if you're ever in Snohomish, definitely go check it out. It's called Studio 606. And I'm just getting my colors wet here so that I've got some colors to work with, and mostly using, probably not using a ton of the green, we're not going to paint this whole shebang. We are going to just focus on our little squirrel. But when you get the kit in your hot little hands, you can paint the whole darn thing. And if you don't know, I make watercolor kits. It has everything you need to paint. It's got the colors, it's got the brushes, it's got the paper with the outlines already on it, and it comes with video tutorials. So get psyched. Alrighty, Roo. So we have our squirrel. So what I like to do, when I'm painting an animal, you can always go darker, but it's hard to go lighter once you already put the color on the page. So I want this guy to have kind of like a yellow, orangey undertone. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Okay. Excuse-moi. With maybe a little bit of coolness from this Van Dyke Brown. And I'm going to do just like the lightest of light layers here so I can see. And I'm going to work on the body. Anything that you want. Oh, we're focusing. Anything you want to leave light, we're going to want to leave completely clear. So I don't know that I have too many areas that I'm really wanting to keep white here. So I am filling in my squirrel with this very light brown. And I'm going to skip the tail for now because we're going to do something a little bit different with the tail. But I'm just filling my little guy in. And the tricky thing is you want to make sure that this can stay wet for a while. So as you're filling up your wash, think about leaving more of a like not freshly mopped. That's going to be too dry. You're going to want like, pretty damp here. Like a little puddle. It should be shiny. You should be able to like move your page and the water would kind of swirl a little bit. And this will give us time to really play with the wet and wet and get some nice little washes in here. And the reason I start with this is just to give myself a basic idea of where the darks and lights are and kind of get a base tone for my animal, because there's not going to really be a lot of like just pure white on the animal. And a lot of times for like pure white details, I'll just kind of add white at the end, like on the nose or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my darker colors and I'm going to start dropping it into this wet area and just dropping it in. And by letting it drop, see how the paint is just kind of traveling through the water. This is really a fun way to get that texture going on your underlayer. And so we're creating a little bit of depth by thinking, okay, where are the darker parts going to be? Probably under this arm, on the belly, down by its feet because it's hunched over, maybe here down by the neck. Maybe behind the ear. I'm just casually dropping this in. Oh, I don't know that I finished painting his hands with the wet, so let's do that. Okay, so we're starting to get a nice little color. I might even kind of add some yellow in here, kind of bring a little warmth up. This is the yellow ochre. And this is not going to be super dark. We're just putting down the base layer. So don't sweat it if you're like, this looks too light. I don't know. We can always do this round a second time. Okay, so we've got the, I've got some of that transparent red oxide. I really like this color. I love how this is mixing in. I especially love using a cold pressed paper for this, for pets, because it really captures the texture of the paper, which I think lends itself well to that kind of fuzzy little feeling here. So let's see. There we go. I want to have like a little bit of pink here by the nose. If you've done the Winter Woods kit, we talked a lot about this technique. We're going to do a little pink by the ears. Just a little bit inside that ear. I'm using my brush to kind of just disperse that a little bit because I don't want it totally there. It looks like I'm drying up a little bit on the arm. It's not as glossy. So I'm just wetting it again because I'm not done adding color. I'm not done playing with this. So if you're popping in, let me know what your favorite woodland critter is in the comments so that I can make sure I get you your points for attendance. Otherwise, I don't see who's in here. And so I could say hi. All right. So I'm really just tapping my brush at this stage. I am not doing like much brush stroke. I'm really just tapping my brush. I'm grabbing a little bit of color. And note that as I'm grabbing the color, it's not very wet over here on my paint puddles. It's just enough to make sure the paint is flowing, but I'm actually using fairly just like ever so lightly damp brush, a lot of pigment, and I'm letting the water disperse this here. It's under the little neck. All right, so cute. All right, and we're gonna do the tail separately because it's just a little bit different than the body fur, and we have to wait until his body is dry to really get in there. Okay, I think I want a little bit more of this burnt umber. And so you see, like, this is one of the benefits of using really good papers. We're going to have time to really add this color in without our paper drying. So we get to have this wet and wet action. Like, we're not really rushing here, you know, we're taking our time. Oh, VS says fox or maybe a deer is her favorite woodland creature. Nice. But yeah, we've got time. It's wet. We're just slowly building color. I think a lot of times when the page is wet, we're like, oh my God, we gotta go so fast. And sometimes you do, but if you have the right amount of water on your page to begin with, you're going to be really setting yourself up for success here. So that's what we're doing. And I like to see it be pretty glossy. You should be able to see like a shine on it as you're painting. Do a little bit here around his eye. Maybe he has like a little bit of a white, brighter spot on his forehead. But I like where we're going here. Alrighty. I'm just kind of spotting the back, and I'm just going to trust the water to wiggle that around for me. These ears are starting to dry, so just kind of wetting them again. Okay, and if you find that you have made part of it too dark, you can always soak it up with a dry brush and use the lifting technique. Like I might just kind of want to lift a little bit here off of his brow. Nothing too wild. So we are going to let this dry, and I'm actually going to let it air dry for a bit before we get into our second layer. Sophia says, love the way this technique makes the fur texture on him. Yes, me too. It's so fun. So we may as well just paint a little leaf here. Why not, right? I'm going to do a little yellow underlayer. You know I love a yellow underlayer. I can't believe October's almost over. We have been doing so many fun watercolor things. I have loved being able to come on the lives with you all and share about watercolor. It's been so fun. I hope it's been helpful for you all. I'm still kind of getting the hang of like all the live tech setup and stuff like that. So you guys have been my guinea pigs. Okay, Jessica's liking a rabbit. Very fun. So we're just letting that guy dry. And I'm painting just these leaves while I'm waiting because I don't want to blow dry it because I want to preserve that texture on the fur. But I'll talk about leaves while we're waiting. So I always like to try to do a yellow undertone on these little cuties, on these leaves, most leaves actually, no matter what season, whether it's fall or winter or, well, I guess winter, not really leaves, but you know what I mean. Fall or summer or spring, I always find that a yellow underlayer really brings out the yumminess of the leaf. All right, let's let those dry. I'm going to take a little sip of water. And remember, if we're painting this and this, if we want them to be slightly different colors, we want to make sure we wait until this is dry before we get to this, which is why we're waiting on our little guy. Okay. So we can actually start in on our tail because it's going to be pretty white, like very light brown. So I am actually going to do something a little bit different. So you see we have the tail painted out with all those little, floofies. But I'm going to show you something that I really like to do. I'm grabbing a thinner, kind of like a lining brush. Oh yeah, this will be good. So this is my Interlawn 3/0, a very thin little brush. And we're going to just take water. And I love doing this like for hat pom-poms and stuff. We're going to take water and just along that edge where the floofiness of the tail is, actually, let me think. Yeah. So I'm just going with water, and like it can be pretty wet. Might be kind of hard to see from where you are. Sorry, my head's in the way. But then at the very tips of where I put the water is where I'm gonna actually need a little bit more water because I can't see it. Where I put the tips of the water, I'm gonna add just a little bit of a dark color to the end, and it's gonna give that kind of furry texture. So I don't know if can you see that? It might be kind of hard to see. I'll try to exaggerate it a little bit. Oops, just throwing water everywhere. Okay, so I'll try to make it a little bit darker, but this gives this cool, because the paint will go from the tip of that little area and then cascade down the water path that you've made, and it creates just this nice kind of fluffy lining. How is that reading to you all? Are you able to kind of see what we got going on there? I can try to do it a little bit closer to the camera. Basically, I'm going in with water, grabbing pretty dark pigment on my brush and tipping it to the very tip of where I made those little water lines. This is one of my favorite techniques for those little flyaway hairs. You can do some just with a dry brush too, just little wispies. I think when you are using an outline, it can be fun to go outside the lines in some ways like this, just because why not, you know? I think it kind of softens that line of the tail. So here I'm just doing a dry brush, kind of past where the tail is. So those are some options to kind of bring some dynamics to your tail situation, to your furry situation. So we'll let that dry for a little bit. But another thing that you can do when you are working with a shape that's really fuzzy is you can actually wet ever so slightly outside of the fuzzy area and add color and let it kind of disperse. So we don't want as much water as we had on here. I'm actually going to blow dry this now that we're at a good spot. So I'm going to mute you. If I forget to unmute, please just remind me. Okay, so that's dry enough. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see like that fun texture there around the tushy? So good. Okay, so especially if you have clean water, you're really going to want to make sure your water is clean for this. And what you're going to do is you are going to fill in just past the perimeter of the tail. Okay, so it can be kind of swooshy, swooshy, you know, no rules here. Just throw the paint on. And you don't want it to be too wet, so a little bit drier than when we were doing our squirrel, because you don't, or our like squirrel body, because you don't want this to travel like very smoothly. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting the tail and kind of letting the paint slowly drift off to the edges. And if your water is too wet, it's going to really push against the edges. So once again, we're going to drop some color in here. Allow his fluffy butt to just do the talking. Okay, so I'm going to take some of my mixture with like a little bit more of that Van Dyke brown here that we were working with. And I am just going to kind of tap here in the middle. And I'm going to let the water carry this color out. I don't want to get too close to the edge because that's where we're going to run into some trouble. If I go too close to the edge, this will really spill out over and create like an edge line. So I'm using not a ton of water here. I would say it's like freshly Zambonied ice rink on the water that I placed down first. And then I'm not using a ton of water in the paint that I'm applying either. I'm getting nice and dark by his tush. Got some nice shadow going on there. You see how gently that color is spreading out. So it looks like I needed a little bit more moisture down here. That's fine. And I'm just letting this color get fuzzy around the edges. I might even throw in like a little bit more here. Kind of adding some dark where those little tufts are. A little bit there. And this gives that really nice kind of like, where does it even end vibe. Like you don't know where the squirrel ends and begins. Okay. And I like this because the color does travel into these little hair bits, but it's not super dramatic. We're not like painting every single little fiber of these. It just creates like the essence of a tail. And I'm actually pretty happy with that. I might add like just a little bit more color here by the bum bum. So we've got like a nice little shadow going on. I think we're in pretty good shape with this tail. Just a little bit more like right here, kind of at that where it's curving over. Right, Analia likes rabbits and squirrels. So fun. Okay. All right. So now that we've got that down, I'm going to add, this guy's probably pretty dry over here. So I am going to add just a little bit of this red here at his ear. Oh, sorry. A little noisy in the background here. And that's really, really bright. So I'm going to just water it down. So it's nice and soft. There we go. And a little bit more on his nose. Just a little pink nose. Why not? Are squirrels' noses pink? Probably not. But this one is. He's cute. Got a little pink nose. All right. Maybe we'll do like his little toenails darker. So you might want to get like a small brush for this. I'm of course using my big brush because I don't know. I like a challenge. Oh my gosh, I painted my nails this morning. We're painting his nails this morning. So fancy. So tiny. All right. So now let's talk a little bit of detail, okay? So as we're adding, we have added like the base fur. So you know I like to start with like a big wash. So we've done that wash, and now we're going to add a little bit of depth and volume to this little squirrel. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to add a glaze. So we're going to add a second layer over to really emphasize where those shadows are. And we're going to make them pretty soft too. So hang on. I had to have a sip of coffee. Okay, so we're going to have a really dark spot right in here. So I'm not even going to it's pretty small. So I'm just going to go in there and give it just a nice shadow in there. Okay, not too much water, not enough dark. All right, I think that's nice. And we're going to get a nice shadow on this back arm. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit darker than this forearm here. And the reason why I like having the underlayer first is because I think it gives it, then you have the same base color underneath. You're just adding the shadow rather than just like, this is light, this is dark. So you get a little bit more of that continuity. So right here, I am leaving the tummy a little bit lighter, but I'm adding some very, almost dry brushing this on here. A very light bit of darker color right here in the crevice of his leg, and I'm smoothing this line out so we get a nice soft transition with my dry brush here. Okay, so same thing, let's repeat that. We're gonna have a nice kind of darker spot right here. So I'm painting where the darker spot is. I'm cleaning my brush off, drying it, and then I'm just feathering that edge with the tip of my brush. And that's creating a really soft little shadow line. I'm coming back in, I'm drying, cleaning my brush off again, making a nice little shadow line. This is all pretty dry work. There's not a lot of moisture happening here. So same thing under the arm. Now, if you're working with something without an outline, this is a really great way to kind of define edges of your animal so rather than painting these little elbow furs, what we're doing instead is we're painting what's behind it. So think about like a scruff of a dog, like around its neck. That fur, you're not really painting the top fur. You're actually painting the bottom fur, which is kind of weird. But we'll actually get into that more tomorrow when we're doing our birds. So let's add a little bit more shadow here. Just do like a little bit on his tushy. Just really got to get the little squirrel tush. So this is how we add some shadow. And their feet are weird, huh? Like I'd never thought too much about a squirrel's feet until I was drawing this design. I was like, kind of weird. Okay, so here I'm going to do just like a little bit by the neck. I'm doing this with a little bit more of the transparent red oxide or like a burnt sienna to kind of make it a little bit brighter. Once again, not a ton of paint. I've dried my brush off and now I'm feathering out that part. Da 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 da. I'm going to do a little bit around the eyes too. Right here. Eyes always have a little bit of darkness around there, kind of where the eye socket is or whatever. I won't say my anatomy is, all that in a bag of chips, but I do know that. And here, I'm just taking my dry brush and I'm just leaving the little brush strokes. I kind of like how that looks. We've got a little brushy situation. Okay, so let's get a little bit of depth here in this ear. Once again, we're just shading in a little bit of depth, a little bit of shadow. Nothing too wild. I feel like he's maybe got like a little darkness under his nose because he's like, no. Can't see anything. Okay. Got a nice little shadow. All right. So we can do the same thing here to kind of bring out these tufts. I'm going to paint around them rather than actually painting them. And so you can do this even if you don't have the lines. Imagine where the hair would be and just leave that light. Don't paint that part, just paint around it. And so then I'm, once again, drying my brush and feathering it out. So that leaves a nice little highlight there on that little tuft of hair. Let's do another one. Okay. So I've dried off my brush before feathering it out. It's really gentle. I think a lot of times we just want to soak our watercolor paper with water, and the use of water is just important as like the limiting of water, right? Okay, so this is subtle. It's not like gonna make or break your piece, but it is a nice little technique to use when you're wanting to add a little bit of depth and dimension to your fur. All right, so I like that. I think he looks pretty cute. And usually I do like a detail layer. So if I were doing this painting like a really detailed one, I would be getting into the eyes and the whiskers and like the brow and things like that. In this case, I might just add a little bit more of a staunch shadow, just in a couple places. So I'm grabbing a little bit of this Van Dyke Brown, and I'm not going to feather this shadow out so much. So I kind of want it to show. This is giving me a sense of the parts of the squirrel that aren't seeing any sunshine. He's sitting on it. Definitely hearing his little neck. He's like, don't take my neck. I'm not sharing. And here we're kind of doing the same thing with the arm hair, like by avoiding it. And then painting, feathering out the edge. So let us do feather that one. And I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's pretty cute. So let me know if you guys have any questions. You can always go over this more. Like if you wanted to add another glaze, like maybe you're like, I really wanted my squirrel to be more red, like do it, okay? Go back over it, you know? Maybe I just kind of want a little bit more right here. Great. Add it in. That's the beauty of watercolors. You can always add more. It's harder to go backwards and like take it away. Actually, I kind of like that. So let's keep adding. Let me know if you guys have any questions about painting fur while we're fussing. Yeah, there you go. So cute. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So I'm going to let y'all go. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any more questions about this, feel free to drop it in the comments and I will get back to you. I'm going to actually be painting this and all the other ones for the autumn leaves. So that's what I'm doing today. Hope you have a wonderful day. Happy painting. And yeah, thanks for painting with me. I don't know. I'm like babbling. Okay, bye. Oh, don't forget to enter and take pictures of everything and tag me so I can give you more points for the giveaway. Woohoo! Bye.